In the distant future, 500,000 years after a great betrayal, Earth was a world of advanced technology and hidden wonders. Once a thriving planet, it had been changed forever by the actions of the Galactic Council. Long ago, the Council was supposed to be humanity's ally, a protector among the stars. But instead, they turned against Earth when the planet needed help the most. The Galactic Council was a group of powerful alien leaders who governed the galaxy. They were rich and strong, and they promised peace and safety. They came to Earth with gifts and promises, saying they would share their knowledge. Humans were excited and hopeful. They thought they had finally found friends in the vast universe. But the Council had different plans. As Earth flourished under the Council's guidance, a dark plot was brewing. The Council saw Earth as a source of endless resources. They wanted to take everything from the planet, using humans as mere tools. When a great disaster struck Earth, a cataclysm that threatened all life, the Council made their move. They abandoned humanity, leaving them to suffer alone while they took what they wanted. It was a betrayal that shattered trust and left deep scars. Years passed after the betrayal, and Earth slowly rebuilt itself. The humans became stronger, smarter, and more independent. They learned to rely on themselves, creating advanced technology hidden from the eyes of the Galactic Council. But the pain of betrayal never truly faded. It became part of their history, a reminder of how easily trust could be broken. In a secret underground chamber, a group of human leaders gathered. They were wise and strong, each carrying the weight of the past on their shoulders. They spoke of the Council's betrayal, their voices filled with anger and sorrow. One leader, a fierce woman named Ilara, stood up and addressed the others. "We cannot forget what they did to us," she said, her voice steady. "We were abandoned when we needed them the most. But now the Council is growing weak. We must find out what they are planning. If they are coming for us again, we need to be ready." The room filled with murmurs of agreement. The leaders knew that they had to act. They decided to send scouts into the galaxy to gather information about the Council. Their mission was dangerous, but they were determined. They needed to uncover the truth and prepare for whatever might come next. Meanwhile, far away in the depths of space, the Galactic Council was facing its own problems. The leaders were squabbling over resources and power. The Council's grip on the galaxy was slipping, and whispers of rebellion began to spread. Some Council members believed that humans were no longer a threat and could be dealt with easily. They underestimated the spirit of Earth. As the humans worked to gather information, they discovered a strange presence watching them from the shadows. A new alien force had emerged, one that seemed to be interested in Earth. The leaders grew worried. Was this new threat connected to the Galactic Council? In the midst of their preparations, a young scout named Orion returned with alarming news. "I saw their ships," he said, panting from his journey. "They are sending scouts to our world. They are looking for us again." The leaders exchanged worried glances. Ilara felt a surge of anger. The Council had dared to return after what they had done. They had forgotten that humanity was resilient. "We cannot let them find us," she declared. "We must prepare for war. We need to awaken the Guardians, the warriors who can fight for us. They are our only hope." The other leaders nodded in agreement. The Guardians were legendary heroes from the past, powerful and skilled. But they had been put into deep sleep after the betrayal, and now it was time to awaken them. They were the key to humanity's revenge. The leaders gathered around a large, ancient console that held the secrets of the Guardians. They pressed buttons and activated the old machinery, feeling a mix of hope and fear. As they worked, they could feel the weight of the past lifting slightly. It was time for humanity to rise again, to reclaim their honor and take their revenge on the Galactic Council. This time, they would not be betrayed. This time, they would fight back. The underground chamber was filled with anticipation as the human leaders prepared to awaken the Guardians. Ilara stood at the center of the room, her heart racing with both excitement and anxiety. The Guardians were legendary heroes, powerful warriors who had fought bravely against the Galactic Council long ago. Now they were humanity's only hope for revenge. As the console hummed to life, bright lights flickered on, illuminating the faces of the leaders. They could see rows of cryogenic pods lined up along the walls, each one containing a Guardian in deep sleep. The sight reminded them of the pain and betrayal from the past, but it also filled them with determination. They were about to bring back their greatest defenders. "Are you ready?" Ilara asked, glancing at the others. They nodded, their expressions serious. The time for action had come. Ilara pressed a button on the console, and a deep, resonant voice filled the chamber. Initiating awakening sequence. The room buzzed with energy as the machines began to work. Each pod lit up, and the sound of mechanical whirring filled the air. The Guardians were being brought back to life. One by one, the pods opened with a hiss. Cool mist rolled out, and the first Guardian emerged. Kyle, the strongest of them all, stepped out, his muscles rippling beneath his tight armor. He looked around, confused and disoriented. But the fire in his eyes quickly returned as he recognized the faces of the leaders.
"Where am I?"
Kyle asked, his voice deep and commanding. He brushed the mist from his face and straightened his posture. "What has happened?" Ilara stepped forward, her heart swelling with pride. "Kale, it's time to fight again. The Galactic Council has returned, and they threaten Earth once more. We need your strength and leadership." Kale's expression hardened as memories flooded back. He remembered the betrayal, the pain of being left behind. "I will fight for humanity," he vowed, determination burning in his eyes. "I will not let them take our world again." As Kale began to gather his bearings, the other pods opened and more Guardians emerged. Each one was unique with different skills and talents. There was Mira, a fierce warrior with unmatched agility, Thorn, a master of technology and engineering, and Lyra, a brilliant strategist known for her sharp mind. Ilara watched as the Guardians reunited, sharing stories and laughter, but there was a solemn air about them. They all knew why they had been awakened. They had a mission to accomplish, and the stakes were higher than ever. "We need to train," Kale announced, his voice strong. "We must be ready for what is to come." The leaders agreed, and they moved to an expansive training area deep within the underground facility. It was a vast space filled with advanced technology, weapons, and obstacles designed to test their skills. As the Guardians began their training, the atmosphere shifted. They pushed themselves to the limit, sparring against each other, testing their strengths and weaknesses. Kale led the charge, demonstrating powerful combat moves and inspiring the others to dig deep and give their all. Hours passed, and the Guardians grew stronger. Ilara watched in awe as they worked together, forming a bond that was unbreakable. They were not just warriors, they were a family, united by a common goal. Amid the training, Thorn discovered an old weapons cache filled with advanced gear from the past. "These will help us," he said, holding up a sleek energy rifle. The Guardians gathered around, excitement building as they equipped themselves with the powerful weapons. The leaders joined in, giving tactical advice and strategizing for the battles ahead. They knew that the Galactic Council would not back down easily. The Guardians had to be prepared for anything. As night fell, Ilara and the leaders held a meeting to discuss their plans. "We need to gather more allies," she suggested. "Other worlds have suffered under the Council's rule. If we unite, we can stand against them." Kale nodded. "We should send teams to reach out to these worlds. We need their support." The room buzzed with energy as ideas flowed. Hope blossomed in their hearts as they realized they were not alone. The Guardians were back, and humanity was ready to fight. Ilara felt a sense of pride as she watched the Guardians train. They were stronger than ever, and together they would reclaim their place in the galaxy. The Galactic Council had made a grave mistake by underestimating humanity. Now, the Guardians were awake, and revenge was just around the corner. As the sun rose over the hidden city, the Guardians continued their intense training. Each day they grew stronger and more united. Ilara and the other leaders watched with pride, knowing they had awakened the best warriors from humanity's past. But there was no time to waste. They needed to gather information about the Galactic Council's plans. One morning, as the Guardians finished their training, Ilara called for a meeting. "We must find out what the Galactic Council is doing," she said. "We need to know how to prepare for their next move." Kale nodded, his expression serious. "We should send scouts to their bases and look for weaknesses. We cannot attack until we understand their strategy." The leaders agreed, and a team was quickly formed. Kale, Mira, and Thorn would lead the mission. They would sneak into a nearby council outpost known for housing secret information. The other Guardians would stay behind, continuing their training and preparing for the battle ahead. The team departed as night fell, using advanced stealth technology to keep their presence hidden. Kale led the way, his instincts sharp. The outpost loomed ahead, surrounded by tall walls and guarded by alien sentries. They had to be careful. If caught, it could mean disaster. Stay close and move quietly, Kale whispered. The others nodded, their eyes focused. They approached the outer perimeter and found a small, unguarded entrance. It was a risky way in, but it was their best chance. Once inside, the team split up to search for information. Mira moved quickly, her agility allowing her to slip past guards with ease. Thorn hacked into the security systems, disabling cameras and alarms. Kale stood watch, ready to protect his team at a moment's notice. As they explored the dark hallways, Mira found a room filled with data consoles. "This is it!" she exclaimed. "We can gather all the information we need here." They quickly joined her, scanning the screens for anything useful. Thorn began downloading files, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "We need to hurry," he urged. "If we're caught, we won't get out alive." Just then, a warning alarm echoed through the building. Kyle's heart raced. "We have to go now," he shouted. The team grabbed as much data as they could and raced back towards the entrance. The sound of approaching guards grew louder and panic set in. They dashed through the hallways, dodging guards and narrowly avoiding capture. Kale led the way, using his strength to push through obstacles. Mira followed closely, her eyes sharp for any threats. They finally reached the exit, but just as they were about to escape, they were confronted by a group of alien soldiers. "Stop right there!" one of the guards shouted, raising his weapon. Kale stepped forward, ready to fight. "We can't let them take us!" he yelled, preparing for battle. But before they could engage, Mira noticed a ventilation shaft nearby. "This way!" she shouted, pointing towards it. They quickly crawled into the narrow space, just as the guards fired their weapons. The team squeezed through the shaft, heartbeats racing. Once they were safely on the other side, they emerged into an alleyway. They could hear the guards searching for them, but they were safe for the moment. Breathing heavily, they gathered themselves, realizing they had to get back to their hidden city. "Did we get anything useful?" Kale asked, looking at Thorn, who was still checking the data they had downloaded. "Yes," Thorn replied, his eyes wide with excitement. "I found information about their plans. The Council is weak, but they are preparing for a major offensive. They want to crush us before we can unite with other worlds." Mira frowned. "They think we are still helpless. They underestimate us." Kale nodded, anger rising within him. "We cannot let them succeed. We have to share this information with the other leaders immediately." The team raced back to their underground base, their minds focused on the mission ahead. When they arrived, Ilara and the other leaders were waiting anxiously. "What happened?" Ilara asked, her eyes scanning their faces for answers. "We found critical information," Thorn explained, catching his breath. "The Council is planning an attack. They believe we are still weak and unorganized, but we have a chance to surprise them." Ilara's face lit up with determination. "We can use this to our advantage. We need to rally our allies and prepare for the fight of our lives. The Council will soon learn that humanity is not to be underestimated." The Guardians stood tall, ready to fight. They had uncovered the Council's secrets, and now they would turn the tide. The time for revenge was drawing closer, and this time they would not fail. The underground base buzzed with energy as the Guardians prepared for the impending confrontation. Ilara and the leaders gathered in the command room, reviewing the intelligence gathered from the Council outpost. Tension filled the air as they strategized their next steps. The time for talk was over. It was time to act. Kale stood at the center, his powerful frame radiating confidence. "We know the Council is planning a major attack," he said, his voice steady. "We must show them that we are ready. We will not be caught off guard this time." Ilara nodded, her heart pounding with determination. "We have allies who can help us. We need to reach out to them immediately and unite our forces." The leaders quickly divided into teams to contact other worlds, eager to gather support for their fight against the Galactic Council. While the leaders worked, the Guardians honed their skills in the training area. Mira led a group in hand-to-hand combat, while Thorn focused on weaponry. They pushed each other to their limits, knowing that they had to be prepared for the battle ahead. Days passed as they trained and strategized, but the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. They were no longer just a band of warriors, they were a united force, ready to reclaim their home. Finally, the day of the confrontation arrived. The Guardians assembled in the command room, ready for battle. Ilara stood before them, her voice strong. "Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for every world the Galactic Council has oppressed. Together, we will show them the true power of humanity." The Guardians cheered, their spirits lifted by Ilara's words. They gathered their weapons and suited up, adrenaline coursing through their veins. They had prepared for this moment, and they would not back down. Kale led the team towards the launch bay, where their ships awaited them. As they boarded, he felt a surge of pride for his fellow Guardians. Each of them had faced their fears, trained hard, and now stood ready to confront their enemies. Once in space, they navigated towards the Council's flagship, a massive ship looming in the distance. The Guardians' ships flew in formation, a striking display of unity. As they approached, the Council's defenses activated, and the space around them lit up with enemy fire. "Brace for impact," Kale shouted as they dodged incoming blasts. Mira piloted their ship with expert precision, weaving through the enemy fire. "I see an opening," she called, guiding them towards the flagship. As they closed in, Thorn hacked into the Council's systems from his station, disabling their defenses. "They won't know what hit them," he laughed, adrenaline pumping through him. The Guardians cheered as their ship penetrated the flagship's shields, entering its hangar bay. Once inside, they quickly disembarked, weapons drawn and ready for battle. The atmosphere was tense, filled with the sounds of distant explosions and alarms blaring. "Stay together," Kale commanded. "We move as one." They stormed through the corridors, encountering Council soldiers who rushed to defend their ship. The Guardians fought fiercely, combining their skills to overpower the enemy. Kale led the charge, using his strength to break through their lines, while Mira darted between enemies, striking with deadly precision. But as they pressed forward, they faced tougher resistance. The Council had prepared for their arrival, and elite soldiers emerged, equipped with advanced technology. "They must have known we were coming," Thorn shouted, ducking behind cover. Kale's eyes narrowed as he assessed the situation. "We can't retreat. We need to push through." With a fierce battle cry, he rallied the Guardians, charging towards the elite soldiers. "For Earth!" The Guardians surged forward, their determination unyielding. They fought valiantly, but the Council soldiers were fierce opponents. The clash of weapons echoed through the halls as the two sides engaged in a brutal struggle. Ilara joined the fight, her own skills coming to the forefront. She moved with agility, striking down enemies alongside the Guardians. "We can't let them win!" she shouted, inspiring the team to fight harder. As the battle raged on, Kale found himself face to face with the Council commander, a towering figure cloaked in dark armor. "You think you can defeat us?" the commander sneered. "You are nothing but remnants of a lost race." Kale's heart burned with anger. "We are more than that. We are humanity, and we will not be silenced." With a fierce roar, he charged at the commander, ready to prove his strength. The Guardians fought with everything they had, determined to reclaim their place in the galaxy. They were no longer victims of betrayal. They were warriors, ready to confront their past and fight for their future. The confrontation had begun, and they would not back down. The battle inside the Council's flagship intensified. The air crackled with energy, and the echoes of clashing weapons filled the corridors. Kale fought fiercely, his muscles straining as he engaged the Council commander. Their weapons clashed, sparks flying as Kale pressed forward, fueled by rage and the memory of the betrayal that had haunted humanity for millennia. "You are brave, human," the commander taunted, parrying Kale's blows. "But bravery will not save you. Your kind is doomed." Kale's eyes burned with determination. "You underestimate us. We are not the weak race you think we are." With a powerful strike, he knocked the commander's weapon aside and landed a blow to his side. The commander staggered, surprise flashing in his eyes. Meanwhile, Ilara and the other Guardians fought alongside Kale, pushing through the ranks of elite soldiers. Their teamwork was flawless. They had trained for this moment, and now their skills were on full display. Mira moved like a shadow, striking down enemies before they even realized she was there, while Thorn provided cover fire, expertly disabling their opponents' weapons. "Keep pushing forward," Ilara shouted, rallying the Guardians. "We will show them that humanity will not be broken." Her words ignited a fire within her comrades, and they fought with renewed vigor. As they advanced deeper into the flagship, they began to uncover more of the Council's secrets. In a control room filled with screens, they found files detailing the Council's plans for Earth. Kale and Ilara exchanged glances, knowing they had to gather this information to expose the Council's true nature. "Thorn, can you download this data?" Ilara asked, urgency in her voice. "Already on it," Thorn replied, his fingers flying over the console. He grinned as the files transferred to their devices. We'll have proof of their betrayal! But before they could celebrate, alarms blared throughout the ship. The council commander had rallied his forces and was coming for them. We need to move, Kale urged, grabbing the data from Thorne's hands. This is our chance to turn the tide! They dashed through the corridors, the sound of enemy footsteps growing louder behind them. They needed to escape the flagship and return to their allies with the evidence of the council's treachery. Just as they reached the hangar bay, they found the exit blocked by a squad of elite soldiers. Kale's heart sank. We're not going to let them stop us, he shouted, raising his weapon. Let's fight our way through, Elara declared, determination etched on her face. The Guardians formed a line, weapons ready, prepared to face their enemies one last time. The elite soldiers charged, and the two sides clashed in a fierce struggle. Blaster fire lit up the dark hangar, and the Guardians fought valiantly, refusing to back down. Kale found himself face to face with the council commander once again. You think you can escape? The commander growled, his eyes full of fury. Not without a fight, Kale retorted, launching himself at the commander. The two engaged in a brutal duel, each blow filled with the weight of history and revenge. As the battle raged around them, Elara took the opportunity to lead the others in a strategic maneuver. Mira, flank them! Thorne, cover us, she commanded. The Guardians moved in perfect harmony, overcoming the elite soldiers one by one. Finally, Kyle managed to disarm the commander, knocking his weapon aside. This ends now, he roared, delivering a powerful blow that sent the commander sprawling to the ground. He stood over him, breathing heavily, and raised his weapon. The council commander looked up, fear finally breaking through his arrogance. You are making a mistake, he said, desperation creeping into his voice. Kale's gaze hardened. The mistake was yours when you betrayed us. Humanity will rise again. With that, he took action, his weapon aimed at the commander. Before he could pull the trigger, Elara called out. Kale, we need to go. We've got the data, let's finish this and leave. Her voice reminded him of their mission. With a heavy heart but clear resolve, Kale stepped back. This isn't over, he warned the commander, knowing that their fight was far from finished. The Guardians turned and rushed towards their ships, data in hand and spirits high. Once outside, they boarded their vessels and prepared for takeoff. As they entered their ships, the flagship shook from explosions. They had succeeded in their mission, and the time for revenge was finally here. As they blasted away from the flagship, Kale looked back at the chaos they had created. They had faced the council and shown them that humanity was not to be underestimated. With the truth now in their possession, they would rally their allies and prepare for the final confrontation. Revenge was not just sweet. It was the beginning of a new chapter. The Guardians had awakened a force that would shake the galaxy to its core. Humanity would rise, and the Galactic Council would soon learn the true cost of betrayal.